Two cyborgs and a microphone.
Hello and welcome. My name is Brian McAvoy.
And I'm Tim Shank. This is Two Cyborgs and a Microphone. 2-part cyborg
to 1-part microphone. What are you drinking today, Tim?
Well, I'm a simple guy. I have the same thing all the time, so it's my regular gin and lemon juice.
And what are you drinking it out of?
Admittedly, it's not a Two Cyborgs and a Microphone stylish looking glass tumbler, which is available on Cafe Press through our website at twocyborgs.com.
Well, you got me beat because I'm drinking Soylent out of the bottle.
Soylent is something?
Soylent cacao. Yep, this is my third bottle today. I've not had much time to eat real food. I haven't had much that I have to chew.
In true cyborg fashion, Brian.
Right. That's what I figure.
So today we're talking about brain training, and specifically the games involved with brain training. We did a whole episode on TDCS, so we have talked about neural stimulation. Today we're talking about games that allegedly improve your cognitive ability.
Now, these have been around since, 2006? Well, I'm sure they've been around for a long time, advertised in one way or another. The digital ones, the ones that can be downloaded or purchased, that I'm aware of, have been around since 2006, because I got one for the Nintendo DS called Dr. Kawashima's Brain Training, and it was sometimes called Brain Age. There was a sequel, Brain Age 2. There were all these little activities inside of it where you could watch an animation of 6 ducks walking into a house, and then 4 ducks would walk out, and then 8 more would walk in, and 2 more would walk out, and then it would ask you how many ducks are in the house.
They've gotten a lot further than that now, and there's different kinds. The one, I'm looking at an article now that is about dual end back training.
Yes, this is not around in 2006 because some of the reports as far back as 2010, I know the BBC was critical of it then, and they said that, these train you how to count ducks in an animation. That's not really useful unless you literally count blue animated ducks for a living.
I wonder if there's somebody like that.
Oh, that'd be a weird job.
Yeah. So the dual end back is very different from that. And the way it works is you identify there's a grid, so you're looking at a space, a divided space, and then there's symbols that change in sequence. And what you're expected to do in the game is you remember so many steps back what was the shape, symbol, color, it can be anything, in a specific space.
So for example, you might be looking at a 3x3 grid, and in the very center space, there's a blue duck. And then in the next iteration, there's a red duck. And in the next iteration, there's a gray duck. And then the computer will ask you what color duck was in that middle position 3 turns ago.
Right.
Okay.
To translate the name dual end back, you're remembering 2 things. You're remembering space, because in your example, you just used the center square, for example. But in these games, you're remembering what position on that grid and also what that symbol was. Sometimes it's letters, sometimes it's different colors or shapes, sometimes it's ducks. Maybe. That'd be awesome. You'd have a leg up on that, Brian, because of your previous brain training.
Ducking awesome.
So you're remembering 2 elements. Space, where something is located in space, and what symbol is there, or what color, whatever. And you're remembering it so many steps back in these sequence of changes. And the longer you play, the more steps back you go. So it's dual for the 2 different things you're remembering, which is position and shape. And then N, which is just a number, back. So you start out with these games, you're remembering just what was there two spots ago. And then if you do well at that, it increases 3 steps ago, and then 4, and then 5, and over time you build up till you're able to track 2 elements several steps back. And I've heard of somebody that got up to 12 steps back. I don't believe it. Yeah. But what the study I'm looking at shows is that increases your working memory by 30%.
Well, can we go back for a second? If I'm understanding this correctly, it's been years since I tried one of these dual end back games because it got difficult real quick, and that made it difficult to turn the app back on.
They're not real fun games.
I'm willing to work to increase my brain RAM.
Yeah,
I could use a little more. Usually I do it chemically. It usually comes from a place called Starbucks or something. Mm-hmm. But when you're doing one of these games, you're saying that there's only one of the grid spaces that's occupied.
I don't
Is that
think so. The
correct?
one that I played had, I think it was all the, no, it's been a couple of years for me too, but I think it had all of the grid spaces occupied.
Wow. So you'd have to memorize 9 symbols and colors each time,
I think
and then remember back 3 turns.
it's been a while, and what I should have done before we started recording is pull up a dual end back. You can look them up online. They're on there.
Oh yeah.
And pull one up and just refresh myself on it. I heard some of the initial studies on this and, initial findings. It was pretty impressive what they said. I didn't continue with it. I didn't actually do it for very long because it's not a fun game to play. It's not like you're like, woohoo.
Yeah, I didn't either. It was, when I tried years ago, it was not well gamified. I didn't feel that constant reward that keeps people interested in a game, and game designers know exactly what I'm talking about. You have to constantly give somebody a carrot and say, okay, good job. Now go for the next carrot. Now go for the next carrot. Anyone who's familiar with MMORPGs, grinding is the exact same thing. And if it's not gamified properly, like you said, it's work.
The one I had was like that too, and it did feel like work. Maybe they have gamified it more. The study I'm reading, and I'm going back, this was published in the Journal of Cognitive Enhancement, October 16th of this year. And the study is pretty clear. They used EEG to monitor brain activity. It showed a significant increase in working memory. So 30% is what they're saying. And I just skimmed the study.
And it sounds like what they're saying is that it doesn't just train you to recognize red stars, blue moons, green clovers, and whatever other lucky charms are up there, that it's actually giving you an edge. It is kind of giving that part of your brain a workout. Is that kind of what you're understanding?
Yeah, and that kind of makes sense if you understand. I mean, we used to think that the brain didn't change at all once you became an adult. That's not true. The more we perform certain activities, the better we get at it, and that's because there's neural activity that's increased. We form more connections.
I give amazing hand jobs to myself.
You're a pro.
We'll see if I cut that. I'm the best at giving me a hand job there is.
So it does make sense.
But that's kind of what we thought about the older games, is that, you're increasing your counting, your addition and subtraction, you're doing these fast maths, so that's going to make you better at fast maths later. And we found that, no, it just made you good at counting blue ducks.
Right. And no, that kind of goes to, I have an app on my phone that I downloaded. It's actually, but it has several different types of cognitive exercises, and it goes, everything from reading to listening, speaking, math, and it has a number of different exercises for each one, and it does know how to do that reward. If you guys have spent any time in a casino, there's a special tinkling, weird, psychedelic kind of sound that those machines make, and it makes you feel good. It makes you feel like things are happening.
It triggers something that just floods you with dopamine.
You're in Reno, so I'm sure you've had a lot of that.
Oh yeah, every time I go to a buffet, I have to walk through a casino when I hear that ching 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 coming out of machines on my left, on my right, and I'm like, ooh, somebody's doing well. Even when I'm sitting at the Reno airport, I hear that sound, and like you said, anyone who's been in a casino knows exactly the sound I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think that's a whole different thing, but that sound is very well crafted. I'm sure there's psychologists and neuroscientists that have designed that sound, because it does. You hear it, and it does catch you every time. But anyway, my game does do that, but it does train in a number of different ways, and I think it helps. I think it does help, except for remembering names. I suck at that. It's the only thing I suck at on the game. I'm doing great on everything. It cannot teach me to remember names at all.
See, my problem is not remembering names. It's using the correct name at the right time. Because I can be looking right at you, Tim, and I'll call you Bob. And I'll be like, well, it's because Bob is 3 letters long. It's short for a longer name, and it starts with a consonant, vowel, ends with a consonant. And that's where my brain goes. And all of a sudden, you're Bob to me. Our brains can change. We can be trained. We can learn new things, obviously. And whether or not some of these games actually help with that, it sounds like the dual end back are the only promising ones. I did see one study that said older patients were retaining their cognitive abilities by playing games. It didn't say specifically it was dual end back, which is relevant, but it said that patients playing these games did show a retention of their cognitive abilities compared to people who were just told to do regular internet searches as a control group. So maybe as you age, the ordinary brain games work. For somebody to actively increase their mental ability, Sounds like dual end back is the only possibility.
At this point, you might be right, but I think there's a difference between maintaining a certain level of cognitive ability and increasing cognitive ability.
Agreed.
Because you really need a reason to use that part of your brain more. Yeah, there has to be something that you need to do with that for your brain to really change.
I don't think that was the point of this article. It's saying that if you don't, you'll reach a certain point in your life where your brain is going to deteriorate if you don't use it.
Yeah, they say that, what is it, mahjong, word searches,
anagrams.
Oh, and then there's crosswords.
Sure.
That those just keep your brain active. It keeps you searching for words. It keeps you looking for patterns and things like that. And by doing that, you continue to keep your brain viable or good at those things. But it doesn't really increase them.
This is going to make some people cringe, but when you were talking about searching for different words and patterns and ways of applying them, my thought was making puns, like wordplay.
Oh.
So I'm going to argue that making puns is what's going to keep your brain young and supple.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't disagree with you on that. I mean, if you're looking for those matches, I'm a little ashamed to admit that are you familiar with the show Trailer Park Boys?
I am, in fact.
Oh, I think, and you guys will have to watch the show to know what we're talking about, that Ricky is absolutely brilliant because the actor, the show it's a comedy show and it's in questionable taste across the board, but the character Ricky, it's partially scripted, but the actor who plays Ricky swaps out words for similar words all the time.
That's difficult.
And does it so well. And I've tried to do that, just speaking to somebody and trying to swap out a word. I can't give you an example.
It's hard to do on the fly. I've tried it for other reasons, just for trying to do it for writing and for characters. Trying to do it like while I'm sitting at a keyboard is difficult enough. Trying to do it on the fly, that would be damn near impossible.
Yeah, and the character he's playing is dumb as a rock, but I think the amount of intelligence you'd have to be able to do that is significant. I don't know if that's related to what we were talking about at this point at all.
I think it is, and here's why. Have you heard of the Tetris effect?
The Tetris effect? No, I haven't.
Okay, have you ever played Tetris for like 4 hours straight?
Oh, I've played Tetris for 4 hours straight in sequence of 3 or 4.
I've done this, and I've played Tetris ad nauseum, and all of a sudden when I turn off my game, I will see the blocks. I will see an end table and see it as a tetronymo. I'll see them when I close my eyes. They just appear everywhere. That's the Tetris effect, where it just affects your brain in such a way that it's almost like it reroutes your thinking in order to match what you want. Mm-hmm. Another example is sea legs. When you are on a boat for an extended period and you get back on solid land, all of a sudden your body will just start to shift as though it's expecting the movement of a ship below you. And I think that when the actor who plays Ricky is swapping out words, I think he's kind of in the same way rerouted his brain a bit, account for that ability to switch words.
He's chosen to short circuit his linguistic center.
I wouldn't call it short circuit, but
he's shorting
that's because I'm electrical guy.
Kind of.
But yeah, he's hacked it to do something else. And I think when people try to find that zone, for example, writing songs, and they try and get that lyrical flow, it's not a regular conversation, and you need to tell your brain, think like this, think in rhymes, think in cadence. And I think that's kind of the same thing.
Maybe so. That leads to the brain training can and does work, right? I mean, maybe not the counting of your dog. You can change the way you think in the case of that actor in what would be considered a negative way, because that it changes the way your language center is working and the way his is. Mm-hmm. Or you can increase your memory. I mean, I would say that there's plenty of anecdotal evidence that it does work. Whether or not that's measured and studied yet,
I am looking forward to seeing more evidence on dual end back training, because that's the only one I've heard of with any promise, at least for people under 70.
Yeah, well, this article has me re-interested in it, and I think I'm probably going to download an app or find a way to start trying it again. And hopefully they do put those sparkly sounds in there, because I want it to be fun.
I do too, and I hope we can do a Patreon exclusive where we talk about this in a month or something after you've done this game, and we'll see what your results are.
Maybe, but you know me, I don't measure that stuff. I never do.
Start.
So I think that's a good place to end it. I want to thank our listeners for listening. We'd like to invite you to email us at cyborgs@twocyborgs.com, or you can email either of us individually. I'm Tim at twocyborgs.com. That's Brian at twocyborgs.com.
And of course, our website, twocyborgs.com. Check out the Cafe Press store. You can get one of the hooded sweatshirts. You can get a tumbler. You can get a coffee mug.
You can get a dog t-shirt.
That's right. You can get a dog t-shirt. So you can support our podcast, and you can look cool. This is Brian McAvoy. Sadly, I'm not drinking out of the mug. I'm drinking Soylent.
And this is Tim Shank. You have been listening to Two Cyborgs and a Microphone, brought to you by two cyborgs who definitely have microphones.
Like, follow, share, +1, and don't forget to subscribe on any of the popular podcast services, including Google Play Music, iTunes, and Stitcher. Help us move up the podcast ladder by subscribing and commenting on iTunes.
And now we tweet at Two Cyborgs.